The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a marvel of interstellar engineering. Its dome stretched high above, shimmering with holographic constellations that mirrored the universe itself. Delegates from countless species sat in tiered rows, their forms ranging from sleek and metallic to amorphous clouds of light. At the center stood Ambassador Leora Vashti, her human frame clad in Earth's traditional blue and white robes. She was small compared to some of the towering alien figures around her, but her voice carried strength. "Your Excellencies," she began, her tone calm yet firm, "we come here today seeking peace, not charity. Humanity has offered its resources willingly for decades, our minerals, our knowledge, even our labor, to help build this council into what it is. But cooperation must go both ways. We ask only for fairness." Her words echoed through the chamber, meeting silence. The council members exchanged glances, some curious, others dismissive. To many of them, humans were still newcomers to the galactic stage, fragile, emotional beings who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. They saw Earth as a resource-rich planet to exploit, not an equal partner to respect. Councillor Valix of the Valari Consortium leaned forward, his elongated body casting a shadow over the table. His voice dripped with condescension. "Ambassador, humanity misunderstands its position. You are guests at this table, not leaders. Your contributions are appreciated, but they do not grant you privilege." Lyra's jaw tightened. She had expected resistance, but not outright mockery. Behind her, holographic projections displayed data, charts showing how Earth's resources fueled half the Council's energy needs, while receiving minimal aid in return. Yet none of it seemed to sway the gathered delegates. "This proposal before us," Leora continued, gesturing toward the glowing treaty floating between them, "is unacceptable. It demands more than we can give without crippling our own people. Where is the balance? Where is the justice?" A low murmur spread through the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others smirked openly. Councillor Syra of the Altheri, her translucent form pulsating gently, raised a tendril-like appendage. "Perhaps there is merit in Ambassador Vashti's words," she suggested softly. "We should consider compromise." But her voice was drowned out by louder protests. The Zorathian representative slammed his fist on the table, causing ripples in the air. "Enough of this weakness. Humans cannot dictate terms. They must comply or leave." That did it. Something inside Leora snapped. Her hands balled into fists at her sides, and her eyes burned with quiet fury. "If compliance means sacrificing everything we are, then no, we will not comply." She turned slowly, meeting each delegate's gaze. "And if leaving is the price of dignity, so be it." Without another word, she stepped back from the podium and signaled to her aides. Together, they walked toward the exit, their steps steady and deliberate. Gasps filled the room as the enormity of her decision sank in. Never before had a species walked away from the council. Not like this. As the doors closed behind them, whispers erupted among the delegates. Councillor Syra watched silently, her glowing form dimming slightly. For the first time, doubt crept into the minds of those who thought themselves untouchable. Had they pushed too far? Was humanity truly done playing by their rules? In the corridors outside, Leora exhaled deeply, her shoulders sagging just a fraction. This wasn't over, it was only beginning. And somewhere deep down, she knew the galaxy would soon realize exactly what they'd lost when they underestimated Earth. "Let me know if you'd like adjustments or further refinements." Back on Earth, the fallout from humanity's abrupt departure from the Galactic Council rippled through every level of society. News outlets buzzed with speculation, politicians scrambled to address public fears, and military bases braced for potential retaliation. But beneath the surface chaos, a quiet confidence pulsed within the highest echelons of leadership. President Elias Kane sat at the head of a long oak table in the secure Situation Room deep under Washington, D.C. Surrounding him were his closest advisors, their faces illuminated by holographic displays hovering above the polished surface. To his left was Dr. Mira Chen, a brilliant strategist known for her ability to predict outcomes before they happened. On his right stood General Arlen Voss, a grizzled veteran whose stern expression masked decades of experience leading humanity's defense forces. "We've burned bridges," President Kane said, his voice steady but heavy with responsibility. "The Council isn't going to let this slide. They'll see our withdrawal as an act of defiance, or worse, weakness." Dr. Chen nodded, adjusting her glasses. "They're already assuming we'll beg to return once sanctions hit. But what if we show them otherwise?" General Voss leaned forward, his weathered hands clasped tightly. "For years, we've played by their rules. Now it's time to remind them why those rules never worked for us in the first place." He tapped one of the holograms, revealing schematics of sleek starships powered by experimental fusion drives. Technology so advanced that even the Council didn't know about it. This was the Aegis Initiative, a top-secret program initiated decades ago during humanity's early days of space exploration. While the galaxy assumed Earth relied solely on outdated tech provided by the Council, humans had been quietly innovating behind closed doors. These new ships weren't just faster. They were smarter, equipped with AI systems capable of outmaneuvering any fleet in existence. And now, they would become humanity's ace in the hole. "Deploy Phase 1 immediately," President Kane ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. Within hours, orders cascaded down the chain of command. Hidden shipyards orbiting Jupiter sprang to life, launching vessels into the void beyond Neptune's orbit. Their mission wasn't war, it was preparation. Humanity needed allies, leverage, and most importantly, self-reliance. As the first wave of ships disappeared into the blackness of space, another layer of the plan unfolded back home. Publicly, governments emphasized unity and resilience, urging citizens to conserve resources and prepare for hard times ahead. Privately, intelligence operatives spread misinformation across galactic networks, planting seeds of doubt about humanity's true capabilities. Let the Council think Earth was vulnerable. Let them underestimate the sleeping giant they'd just provoked. Meanwhile, ambassadors reached out to oppressed colonies scattered throughout the galaxy. Messages encoded in binary pulses traveled via smugglers' freighters, carrying promises of solidarity and hope. "You're not alone," the messages read. "Together, we can change the system." Days turned into weeks, and the Council began to feel the absence of humanity's contributions. Trade routes slowed, resource shortages emerged, and cracks formed among member species who depended heavily on Earth's exports. For the first time, whispers of dissent echoed through the Council chambers. Some wondered if dismissing humanity had been a mistake. Others feared what might come next. Far from the prying eyes of the galaxy, humanity prepared for whatever lay ahead. The Aegis Initiative wasn't just about survival, it was about proving that Earth could thrive without permission. As Captain Rhea Solis boarded her flagship to Eos, she glanced back at the blue-green orb fading in the distance. "This is our moment," she whispered to herself. "Let's make it count." In the days following humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council, an uneasy silence settled over the Council chambers. The once bustling hall now felt hollow, as if the absence of Earth's voice had left a void no other species could fill. Whispers of regret began to ripple through the gathered delegates, though few dared to speak openly. Councillor Sidera of the Altheri floated silently in her designated seat, her translucent form shimmering faintly under the chamber's soft light. She was an empathic being, attuned to the emotions of others, and what she sensed troubled her deeply. Waves of unease radiated from many of the delegates, fear, guilt, and even anger at themselves for allowing pride to overshadow reason. Humanity's departure hadn't just disrupted trade, it had fractured trust. Across the room, the Zorethian representative, Councillor Kragthar, shifted uncomfortably in his massive armored chair. His species prided itself on strength and dominance, but something about humanity's bold move gnawed at him. They hadn't acted out of fear or desperation. They'd walked away with dignity, a trait he couldn't help but admire. "Perhaps we misjudged them," he muttered under his breath, though loud enough for nearby delegates to hear. The Valari Consortium's leader, Valix, scoffed audibly. His elongated body twisted toward Krakthar, his sharp teeth glinting menacingly. Misjudged. Humans are nothing more than children playing at politics. Their withdrawal is merely a tantrum, one they'll soon regret when starvation sets in. But not everyone shared Valix's confidence. Counselor Trena of the aquatic Nimari leaned forward, water droplets glistening on her scaled skin. "Do not underestimate them," she warned, her melodic voice carrying authority. "Their innovations have already reshaped parts of this galaxy. What if their isolation leads to advancements beyond our control?" Sylra nodded slowly, her tendrils glowing brighter as she processed the growing tension. "We must consider reconciliation," she suggested softly. "If humanity truly possesses untapped potential, alienating them further could destabilize the entire Milky Way." Her words sparked heated debate. Some delegates argued that humanity needed to be brought back into the fold before they became too powerful. Others insisted that cutting ties entirely would weaken Earth's influence permanently. Meanwhile, factions like the Valari saw opportunity in chaos. Cheap resources replaced by cheaper machines, all while maintaining their grip on power. Behind closed doors, however, doubts continued to fester. A secret meeting convened late one evening in a secluded corner of the council complex. Only a handful of trusted members attended, including Syra and Krakthar. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with unspoken fears. "We underestimated their resolve," admitted Counselor Orin of the Averix, his feathered crest ruffling nervously. "What happens if they retaliate? Or worse, inspire rebellion among oppressed colonies?" Krakthar slammed a fist onto the table, startling everyone. "Rebellion is inevitable if we continue down this path. Humanity has shown us that defiance can succeed. If we don't act wisely, others will follow their example." Syra raised a glowing tendril, silencing the group. "There is still time to rectify this mistake, but we must approach them humbly, not as rulers, but as equals." As the meeting adjourned, each counselor carried the weight of uncertainty. Back in their respective territories, signs of unrest were already emerging. On distant mining colonies exploited by corporate greed, workers began refusing orders. Smugglers whispered tales of Earth's secret advancements, fueling hope among the downtrodden. Even within the council itself, alliances began to shift subtly. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced the possibility that its dominance might not be absolute. And somewhere far beyond their reach, humanity prepared to prove just how wrong they'd been. Months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, and Earth's absence was beginning to ripple through the galaxy like a stone dropped in still water. Trade routes slowed, resource shortages emerged, and tensions simmered among species who once relied on Earth's abundant exports. But while the Council struggled to adapt, humanity remained eerily silent. Until now. It started with whispers across the stars. Ships carrying vital supplies for the Valari Consortium disappeared without a trace. Entire convoys vanished into thin air, leaving only debris and unanswered questions behind. At first, the Council dismissed these incidents as piracy or mechanical failures. But when key trade hubs under Valari control suddenly went dark, it became clear that something far more calculated was at play. Captain Rhea Solis stood on the bridge of the Eos, her flagship cloaked in experimental technology that rendered it invisible to even the most advanced sensors. Her crew worked with precision, their movements synchronized like clockwork. On the main view screen, a sprawling orbital station loomed, a hub responsible for processing rare minerals mined from nearby asteroids. It belonged to the Valari, whose exploitative practices had long oppressed smaller colonies. "This is our moment," Rhea said, her voice calm but commanding. "Disable their systems, disrupt their operations, but no unnecessary destruction. We're sending a message, not starting a war." The Eos wasn't alone. Dozens of other ships, all part of Earth's covert fleet, executed similar missions across the galaxy. Each strike targeted infrastructure critical to the Council's most exploitative factions, the Vaylari, the Zorethians, and others who thrived on inequality. The attacks weren't random. They were surgical, designed to cripple supply chains without causing civilian casualties. For every facility disabled, humanity broadcast encrypted messages to nearby colonies. You are not forgotten. Back at the Galactic Council, panic spread like wildfire. Emergency sessions convened daily, but the delegates were divided. Some demanded immediate retaliation, while others called for restraint, fearing what humanity might do next. Councillor Valix seethed with rage, his elongated body trembling as he addressed the chamber. They think they can challenge us. He spat, slamming his claws onto the table. Humans are nothing but pests gnawing at the edges of our empire. Councillor Scifi floated forward, her translucent form glowing faintly. Your arrogance blinds you, she said softly but firmly. They've already proven they understand our weaknesses better than we do. These strikes aren't meant to destroy. They're meant to expose how fragile your dominance truly is. Her words struck a nerve. Across the galaxy, oppressed populations began to take notice. Miners on distant asteroid belts stopped working, refusing to send resources to greedy overlords. Factory workers sabotaged equipment, citing inspiration from Earth's defiance. Even pirate factions redirected their efforts, targeting exploitative corporations instead of defenseless colonies. The Council's grip on power was slipping, and there was little they could do to stop it. Meanwhile, humanity continued its campaign. Captain Solus watched as another Vaylari station flickered offline, its automated defenses neutralized by the EOs. She felt no satisfaction, only resolve. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proving that Earth could stand on its own, and that the galaxy didn't have to accept injustice. As news of humanity's actions reached Earth, President Kane addressed the public via global broadcasts. We will not bow to tyranny, he declared, his voice resonating with determination, and we will not allow others to suffer because of greed. Together, we will forge a new path, one built on fairness and unity. For the first time, the Galactic Council realized they weren't dealing with a reckless upstart. Humanity had become a force unlike any other, disciplined, innovative, and unafraid to challenge the status quo. And they were just getting started. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's actions had ignited a firestorm that no one could contain. Across distant colonies, whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire. The oppressed species who had long endured the Council's exploitation now saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to rise against their oppressors. Inspired by Earth's defiance, they began to act. On the mining colony of Scifi 7, workers trudged through endless tunnels carved into jagged asteroids. For decades, they had labored under brutal conditions, their lives dictated by Vaylari overseers who cared only for profit. But today was different. A message from humanity had reached them via encrypted signals smuggled aboard cargo ships. It was simple yet powerful. You are not alone. The miners gathered in secret, their faces illuminated by flickering lanterns. One of them, a wiry young man named Joran, stepped forward. His hands trembled as he held up a makeshift transmitter. We've been slaves for too long, he said, his voice shaking but determined. If Earth can stand up to the Council, so can we. That night, the miners sabotaged key machinery, halting production across the colony. When Vaylari enforcers arrived, they found empty tunnels and disabled equipment. The strike spread quickly, with other colonies following suit. Factories shut down, transport hubs froze, and entire sectors of the galactic economy ground to a halt. Back on the Council's homeworld, chaos erupted in the chambers. Councillor Valix paced furiously, his elongated frame casting long shadows across the floor. This is anarchy, he roared, slamming his claws onto the table. Humans have poisoned the minds of our workforce. Councillor Scifi floated forward, her translucent form glowing faintly. Perhaps it is not poison they spread, she countered gently, but inspiration. Oppressed peoples see what humanity has achieved and wonder why they cannot do the same. Her words struck a nerve. Across the room, factions clashed openly. Some called for immediate retaliation against Earth, while others urged caution, fearing that escalating tensions would only fuel further rebellion. Meanwhile, smaller species within the Council, those who had always been overshadowed by the powerful elite, began to question their loyalty. Could humanity truly offer a better path? Amidst the turmoil, Councillor Scifi made a bold decision. She reached out secretly to Ambassador Liora Vashti, proposing a fragile alliance. Using encrypted channels, she sent a message to Earth. We wish to speak. There may still be a way to bridge this divide. Liora read the message in her private quarters aboard the human diplomatic vessel Aegis, her brow furrowed as she weighed the implications. Trusting the Council again felt impossible, but ignoring Scifi's overture might close doors needed for peace. After consulting with President Kane and General Voss, she agreed to meet, but only if the Council acknowledged its past mistakes. As negotiations began covertly, humanity continued its campaign. Captain Rhea Solis led another mission, this time targeting the Zorathian weapons depot. The operation went smoothly, disabling the facility without harming civilians. As the crew celebrated their success, Rhea couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Humanity had proven its strength, but how far were they willing to go? And at what cost? Meanwhile, rebellion took root beyond mere strikes. On a remote agricultural moon exploited by corporate overlords, farmers armed themselves with crude tools and repurposed machinery. They declared independence, vowing to share their harvests with starving colonies rather than enrich greedy corporations. Similar movements sprang up across the galaxy, each inspired by Earth's example. For the first time, the Council realized the depth of its miscalculation. By underestimating humanity, they had awakened something far greater than rebellion. They had sparked a revolution. Species once divided by fear and oppression now stood united by a shared dream of freedom. In the shadows of space, humanity watched as the seeds they had planted began to grow. The galaxy was shifting, and there was no turning back. Amid the chaos sweeping through the galaxy, an ancient prophecy resurfaced from the depths of forgotten history. Hidden within the archives of the long-lost Calith civilization, a species wiped out centuries ago, were cryptic texts etched onto crystalline tablets. These writings spoke of a fractured dawn, a time when unity would rise from division under the banner of an unexpected savior. The discovery came by chance. A group of human archaeologists, stationed on a desolate moon orbiting a dying star, unearthed fragments of the Calith archives during a routine excavation. At first, the team dismissed the inscriptions as mythological ramblings, but one phrase caught their attention. When the fractured stand together, the light shall awaken. Dr. Elena Marquez, the lead researcher, stared at the translation projected onto her tablet. Her fingers trembled as she traced the glowing symbols. This isn't just a story, she whispered to herself. It's a warning, or maybe a promise. News of the find reached Earth within days. President Kane convened an emergency meeting with his inner circle, including Ambassador Liora Vashti and General Arlen Voss. Holographic projections displayed the translated text alongside images of the artifacts. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. If this prophecy is real, Liora said slowly, it could explain why humanity's actions are resonating so deeply across the galaxy. Maybe we're not just fighting for survival, we're fulfilling something bigger. General Voss crossed his arms, skepticism etched into his weathered face. Prophecies don't win wars, he grunted. But if it inspires people, we can use it to our advantage. Further analysis revealed more clues. The prophecy mentioned a powerful artifact buried in uncharted space, a crystalline monolith said to hold unparalleled knowledge and energy. Some interpreted it as a weapon, others saw it as a tool for enlightenment. Whatever its true nature, one thing was clear: finding it could tip the balance of power in humanity's favor. Back at the Galactic Council, rumors of the prophecy spread like wildfire. Councillor Scifi, whose empathic abilities allowed her to sense underlying truths, became particularly intrigued. She accessed restricted archives and discovered references to the Caliph prophecy buried within classified records. To her shock, the Council had known about it for decades but suppressed the information, fearing its potential to incite rebellion. "This changes everything," Syra murmured to herself, her translucent form glowing faintly. If humanity sought the artifact, they might unlock powers beyond imagination. And if the prophecy proved true, the Council's dominance could crumble entirely. As factions within the Council debated how to respond, humanity prepared for its next move. Captain Rhea Solis received orders to lead a joint expedition fleet into the void expanse, a treacherous region of space shrouded in myths and danger. Alongside human ships sailed vessels crewed by sympathetic species eager to join the quest, including Nymeri engineers, Altheri navigators, and even rogue Zorethian warriors disillusioned with their own leadership. Before departure, Dr. Marquez briefed the crew aboard the Eos. "We don't know what we'll find out there," she admitted, her voice steady despite the weight of uncertainty. "But if the prophecy is right, the artifact could unite us, or destroy us." As the fleet ventured into the unknown, the galaxy watched with bated breath. For some, hope loomed in their hearts. For others, fear tightened its grip. Humanity had taken a gamble, betting everything on a legend written in stars. But one truth lingered in the minds of all who dared to dream. The fractured dawn had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The expedition fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the void expanse, a region of space so treacherous it had earned its ominous name for good reason. Swirling storms of radiation, gravitational anomalies that twisted starlight into kaleidoscopic patterns, and pockets of absolute darkness made navigation nearly impossible. Yet here they were, humanity and its allies, united by hope and driven by desperation. Captain Rhea Solis stood on the bridge of the Eos, her sharp eyes scanning the swirling chaos outside. The ship's advanced sensors worked overtime, struggling to pierce the dense veil of cosmic interference. Around her, the crew moved with quiet determination, their faces illuminated by the glow of holographic displays. Each member knew the stakes. Failure meant not only losing the artifact, but also abandoning any chance of galactic unity. "We're entering uncharted territory," announced Lieutenant Kale, the ship's navigator, his voice tense as he adjusted readings on his console. "Gravitational distortions are already affecting our trajectory." Rhea nodded, her expression unreadable. "Stay vigilant. We can't afford mistakes out here." Behind them, ships from allied species formed a loose formation, their designs as varied as the beings aboard them. Nymeri vessels shimmered like liquid silver, while Altheri craft pulsed faintly with bioluminescent energy. Even the Zorethian warships, typically bristling with weapons, now flew with shields lowered, a gesture of trust. As they ventured deeper, challenges arose almost immediately. A rogue AI guardian, remnants of an ancient defense system left behind by the Caliph, intercepted the fleet. Its mechanical form materialized in flashes of light, firing beams of concentrated energy that forced the ships to scatter. Captain Solis barked orders, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Divert power to the cloaking systems. Keep moving. We can't let it pin us down." The battle was swift but intense. Human ingenuity combined with alien expertise allowed the fleet to disable the AI without significant losses. As the Guardian collapsed into lifeless debris, cheers erupted across communication channels. For many aboard the ships, this victory felt symbolic, a reminder that cooperation could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. But the trials weren't over. Hours later, the fleet encountered a massive gravitational anomaly, a swirling vortex pulling everything toward its center. Ships strained against the pull, engines roaring as navigators fought to stabilize their courses. It was during this ordeal that betrayal reared its ugly head. Aboard one of the Zorethian vessels, Commander Tarkin hesitated. His loyalty to humanity wavered under pressure, and whispers from the Council reached him via encrypted signals. "Turn back. The message urged, "Your people will reward your wisdom." For a moment, doubt clouded his judgment. But when he glanced at the determined faces of his crew and remembered why they had joined this mission, he steeled himself. Betrayal would only weaken them all. With teamwork and sacrifice, the fleet escaped the anomaly, battered but intact. Morale soared as they regrouped, each challenge forging stronger bonds among the disparate species. Along the way, they uncovered fragments of the prophecy etched onto floating debris, guiding them closer to their goal. Finally, after days of relentless effort, the artifact came into view. A crystalline monolith floating serenely amidst a field of stars. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly light, pulsating rhythmically like a heartbeat. Silence fell over the fleet as everyone gazed upon it, awestruck. "This is it," Rhea whispered, her voice tinged with both awe and apprehension. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." The crystalline monolith loomed before the fleet, its surface alive with shifting patterns of light that seemed to pulse in sync with some unseen rhythm. Captain Rhea Solis and her crew aboard the Eos exchanged uneasy glances as they approached cautiously. Despite their resolve, an unspoken question hung heavy in the air. What exactly were they dealing with? Dr. Elena Marquez, the lead archaeologist, floated near the artifact in a small reconnaissance pod, scanning it with advanced equipment. Her voice crackled over the comm system, tinged with both excitement and trepidation. "It's incredible," she said, her tone hushed. "This isn't just technology. It's alive. Or at least, part of it is." Back on the bridge of the Eos, Rhea frowned. "Alive? You mean like AI?" "No, not artificial intelligence," Elena clarified. "This thing seems to respond to emotion, intention, maybe even collective will." The Caliph texts hinted at this. Activating it requires more than pressing buttons or entering codes. It needs unity. Rhea turned to Lieutenant Kale, who was monitoring readings from the artifact. "Unity? How does that work?" Before Kale could answer, the monolith began to react. Its pulsing light grew brighter, casting an ethereal glow across the surrounding ships. A low hum filled the void, resonating through every vessel. For a moment, panic rippled through the fleet, until the hum transformed into something else entirely. A voice echoed in their minds, not spoken but felt. It wasn't in any language, yet everyone understood it perfectly. "To awaken me, you must become one." On board each ship, crews exchanged bewildered looks. Some species instinctively recoiled, distrust bubbling to the surface after centuries of conflict. Others hesitated, unsure if they should proceed. But humanity took the first step. Ambassador Leora Vashti, stationed aboard the Eos, stepped forward. She addressed the fleet via a shared communication channel, her voice steady and calm. "This is what we've been fighting for. A chance to come together. If we want to unlock this power, we have to let go of our divisions. We have to trust each other." Her words struck a chord. Slowly, representatives from every species joined hands, or equivalent gestures, forming connections that transcended physical forms. Maimari tendrils intertwined with human fingers, Altheri bioluminescence merged with Zorathian armor, creating a tapestry of cooperation unlike anything ever seen. As unity spread, the monolith responded. Its light surged, enveloping the fleet in a warm, golden glow. Data streamed into every ship's systems, knowledge so vast it overwhelmed even the most advanced computers. Blueprints for sustainable energy sources, cures for diseases, methods to heal damaged ecosystems, all flooded into their databases. But the artifact offered more than knowledge. It amplified abilities, unlocking latent potential within those who participated. Crew members reported heightened senses, sharper instincts, and even telepathic links with others. For the first time, they truly understood one another, not just intellectually, but emotionally. General Arlen Voss, observing remotely from Earth, received updates with mounting disbelief. "This changes everything," he muttered, staring at holographic displays showing real-time data. Humanity now possessed tools to reshape the galaxy, but also the responsibility to wield them wisely. Meanwhile, back at the Galactic Council, chaos erupted when news of the artifact reached them. Councillor Valix raged, slamming his claws onto the table. They've unleashed something uncontrollable. This cannot stand. Councillor Syra, however, floated silently, her translucent form glowing softly. Perhaps this is precisely what the galaxy needs, she said gently. A reminder that strength lies not in domination, but in unity. Far away, amidst the stars, the fleet basked in the artifact's glow. They had faced trials, betrayal, and doubt, and emerged stronger for it. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The activation of the crystalline monolith did not go unnoticed. Its radiant pulse echoed across the galaxy, a beacon visible even to distant stars. The Galactic Council erupted into panic as sensors detected the surge of energy emanating from the void expanse. For those who had underestimated humanity, fear now replaced arrogance. They realized too late that Earth's gambit was far more than defiance. It was a revolution. Councillor Valix seethed with rage, pacing furiously in the council chamber. They've tipped the balance. He snarled, his elongated frame trembling with fury. If we don't act now, they'll dismantle everything we've built. Others shared his desperation, but disagreed on how to respond. Some factions called for immediate military intervention, while others urged diplomacy, or at least delay. Councillor Syra floated silently, her translucent form dimming slightly as she absorbed the escalating tension. She knew the Council's fractured unity would only weaken them further. Meanwhile, humanity prepared for the inevitable. Captain Rhea Solis rallied her fleet, positioning ships in defensive formations around the artifact. The crystalline monolith continued to hum softly, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. Though it had granted immense knowledge and power, wielding it effectively required coordination and trust. "We're outnumbered," Lieutenant Kale reported grimly from the tactical console aboard the EOS. "Council fleets are mobilizing. They'll be here within hours." Rhea nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Then we make every second count." She turned to Ambassador Leora Vashti, who stood nearby, consulting holographic maps of the surrounding space. "Leora, send a message to all allied colonies. Tell them to prepare for what's coming. This isn't just our fight anymore. It's everyone's." As the Council's armada approached, led by massive Zorathian dreadnoughts and sleek Velari cruisers, humanity's fleet braced for battle. But this wasn't going to be a conventional war. Drawing on the artifact's power, Captain Solis devised a daring strategy. Instead of engaging directly, they focused on disabling enemy vessels without causing loss of life. A stark contrast to the Council's usual scorched earth tactics. When the first wave of Council ships arrived, chaos erupted. Energy beams lanced through the void, targeting engines and weapon systems rather than hulls. Human-operated drones darted between larger vessels, deploying electromagnetic pulses that disrupted communications and navigation. Meanwhile, Nymeria engineers worked tirelessly to disable automated turrets on hostile ships, while Altheri navigators guided damaged craft away from danger zones. For every Council ship neutralized, encrypted messages broadcast directly to their crews. "You are being used. Join us, or stand aside." Many listened. Crews aboard exploited colonies mutinied against their overlords, refusing orders to fire upon humanity's allies. Others simply abandoned their posts, leaving their ships adrift. Back in the Council chambers, fractures deepened. Councillor Trenna of the Nimari spoke up, her melodic voice cutting through the din. "This isn't victory, it's destruction. How many lives must we sacrifice to protect your greed?" Her words struck a nerve. Delegates began arguing openly, some siding with humanity, others clinging desperately to old ways. Councillor Sidera seized the moment, floating forward with quiet authority. "We cannot win this fight, not like this. Humanity has shown us another way. Will we listen, or will we destroy ourselves clinging to fear?" The tide turned decisively when General Arlen Voss transmitted Earth's final message to the Council. We sought peace, not conquest. Surrender your weapons, and together we can rebuild. One by one, Council ships powered down their weapons. The battle ended not with destruction, but with hope, and an undeniable truth. Humanity had proven itself not as conquerors, but as leaders. The galaxy held its breath as the dust of conflict settled. Humanity's victory was not one of conquest, but of conviction, a testament to the power of unity over division. In the aftermath of the final stand, the crystalline monolith continued to pulse softly, its light now steady and serene, as if acknowledging the hard-won peace. Ambassador Liora Vashti stood once more in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, though this time her presence carried a new weight. The delegates who had once dismissed her as insignificant now watched her with cautious respect. Her voice echoed through the hall, calm yet resolute. "We did not come here seeking vengeance or domination," she began. "We came because we believed in something greater than ourselves, a future where all species are equals." Her words struck a chord. Across the galaxy, oppressed populations celebrated their newfound freedom. Factories once owned by exploitative corporations reopened under cooperative management. Miners on distant colonies worked side by side with those they once feared, forging bonds that transcended old prejudices. Even rogue factions laid down arms, inspired by humanity's vision of collaboration. Councillor Syra floated forward, her translucent form glowing faintly. She addressed the chamber, her melodic voice carrying an air of quiet authority. "Humanity has shown us what is possible when we choose trust over fear. Let us honor their courage by rewriting the rules of our union, not for profit, but for progress." The council debated fiercely, but for the first time, dissenting voices were met with reasoned arguments rather than dismissive arrogance. Oppressed species demanded representation, and even traditionally dominant factions, like the Zorathians and Valari, found themselves forced to concede ground. Slowly, painfully, a new framework emerged, one rooted in fairness, transparency, and mutual respect. Back on Earth, President Elias Kane addressed his people via global broadcasts. Standing against the backdrop of a rising sun, he spoke with pride and humility. Today marks not just a victory for humanity, but for every being who dares to dream of a better world. We have proven that strength lies not in isolation, but in connection. Together, we can heal wounds centuries deep and build bridges across stars. The artifact played a pivotal role in this transformation. Its knowledge reshaped industries, cured diseases, and restored damaged ecosystems. But more importantly, it reminded everyone of the potential within them, the ability to rise above hatred and greed. For the first time, the galaxy worked collectively, pooling resources and expertise to tackle challenges no single species could face alone. As ships departed for home, carrying stories of courage and resilience, the prophecy of the fractured dawn seemed fulfilled. Unity had risen from division, forged in the fires of adversity. Captain Rhea Solis gazed out at the swirling cosmos from the bridge of the Eos, her heart swelling with hope. "This isn't the end," she murmured to herself. "It's only the beginning." Far beyond Earth, life blossomed anew. Colonies thrived. Trade routes reopened, and alliances formed between species who had once been enemies. The Galactic Council, reformed and revitalized, welcomed humanity as equals, not guests, but architects of a brighter future. And somewhere deep in uncharted space, the crystalline monolith pulsed quietly, its light fading into the void. It had served its purpose, igniting a spark that would illuminate the galaxy for generations to come. For the first time in history, the Milky Way truly belonged to all who called it home.